Hi, and welcome to the Handbag Designer 101 podcast with your host, Emily Blumenthal, handbag designer expert and handbag fairy godmother, where we cover everything about handbags from making, marketing, designing, and talking to handbag designers and industry experts about what it takes to make a successful handbag. Welcome, everybody, to the Handbag Designer 101 podcast. Today, we have Sherrill Mosee of MinkeeBlue. Sherrill, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Oh, my gosh. So we were just talking. We've overlapped for many handbag years, which to me, handbag years are like dog years. So it's like at least 65 at this point. Well, 7 isn't a denomination of 65, but whatever. You know what I mean. What year did you officially start?
I officially launched in 2014. And I came up with the idea in 2012. And it took me a minute to kick fear to the curb and say, you know what? Let me just go ahead and do this thing.
So what were you doing before, and what happened in 2012 that gave you this idea to give birth to this psychotic concept of a handbag and brand and business and life that it would hold you captive for until now?
Yeah. So I have a degree in engineering. So I used to work at Lockheed Martin for a number of years.
So you're smarty pants.
Well, you know, that's what I thought anyway, too. It's like, okay, I want to do something different. But
how long were you working there?
I worked at Lockheed for about 9-10 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah. And then where I was working over in New Jersey, I'm in Philadelphia now, the plant shut down. And so I was laid off and I started a nonprofit organization.
Just because?
Well, in personal reasons, I started a nonprofit to help low-income single moms in college pay for childcare. My mom was a single mom, didn't really have the opportunity to go to college. And so I know how important it is to have an education and trying to raise kids. And so I did that. Oh, I did that for a number of years as well.
While you weren't working? Like your degree from university is in engineering.
Yeah.
Which there aren't many women, especially women of color, who do that. No, you were like one of what, one?
You're absolutely right. I would sometimes be one in my class, African-American, one female. And so, yeah, it was really, really hard. It still is. My daughter now is an engineer. And I thought the things that I went through, telling my age here about 30 years ago, she's going through the same thing.
Wow.
And so not much has changed over the years.
So building things, making things, you know, I don't know what engineering, but I'm assuming it's not an easy engineering that you studied, but how things are made in an integral sense and the why. I mean, obviously that must have some sort of impact on you if that's something you committed to studying in school, because again, not an easy degree.
It absolutely isn't. And I struggled my way to earn that degree as well. But it's all about problem solving, which is really attributed to how I fast forward to where I am today. But in between that stop between engineering and handbag, I started a nonprofit called Family Care Solutions, where I raise money to help low-income single moms in college pay for childcare. Yeah.
So you were living off of that while you were, you know, like, hey, I'm not working. Let me just start. Because Jesus, like, this is a journey in itself. So you started this brand new business, 501c3, assuming if it's a non-for-profit.
Yeah.
And whilst doing this, and if I count the years, you had a child at this point too, who must have been 8, 9 around for that time span.
Yeah.
So you're doing this nonprofit, you're being very good to people, community, give back. What was the moment where you're like, oh, damn, I should start a handbag line brand and change everything? What was your moment that you were like, this is missing on the market?
Yeah, there were a couple of things that happened. While I was working with the moms, I would see them come in struggling with their diaper bag, their book bag, their purse. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm taking the train in the city. I'm carrying my lunch bag. I have my shoes in a plastic grocery bag, and I'm putting that bag in my tote bag. So I'm the bag lady. And I look around on the train. I say, wow, there are a lot of bag ladies on this train. And we're all struggling with bags. And that was it. Like, you know what? I just want one bag. I don't want to mix my banana in with my laptop. I don't
With
want
your shoes.
my shoes, and
Right.
my laptop. And I want to be able to separate and organize everything in my bag. And I did. I went shopping, couldn't find anything. And I said, you know what? I have this idea. Maybe I can do this. And I was like, nah, I don't know anything about manufacturing. I don't know anything about design. And so it took me a minute before I actually made that decision. You know what? I'm just going to do this.
What was your process? Did you sketch it out? Did you do it on construction paper? Did you do the traditional path of buying materials domestically that were extraordinarily expensive and dropped 5 to 10K on a sample, and then maybe tried to do it yourself? Does all this track?
I drew it out first, and then I was like, I got to think about how I can make this thing work. So I don't sew. My drawings were circles and squares, so I'm really not a good artist. But what I did is I went to Target. I bought a bag for $29.99. I brought it home. It was the same size and shape of the bag I had envisioned in my head because I wanted to carry my laptop and things like that. I just started cutting it up.
You deconstructed it up.
I deconstructed the bag. I had some materials around the house, some fabric. It had frogs on it. I stapled and glued things because I don't sew, and I just kind of put it all together, and I used cardboard, and I figured things out. And I said, hey, maybe this looks pretty good for my prototype here.
Wow. Okay, so you made this first sample. Do you have it?
Yes, I do. I couldn't sew, don't sew, hardly draw. And so I went to Target and I bought this bag for $29.99, $39.99. And it was the same shape and size of this bag I had envisioned in my head.
Right.
I wanted to be able to carry my laptop and things. And what I did is I literally just started cutting it up. And so the bag, I said, okay, I can put my lunch bag back there. And you can see I have this little fabric I found in the kids' room. It has frogs on it. Again, I don't sew.
Right.
So I made my little lunch bag with cardboard. There's glue and staples in here. And I said, hey, this could be my lunch bag. And I could fit it in the bottom here. I cut this out. I could fit it in here. And then I had my little handle on here. And I said, when I'm not using my little lunch bag, I can put my shoes in here.
Yep.
I could put a change of clothes at the bottom, and then I could close it up and zip it up. And I also cut it this way. I said, maybe I can put my shoes in this way as well.
Look at that.
Yeah. And then on the top part, you'll see these Velcro strips here because I had a piece of cardboard that I was flipping up and down. And that was my shelf. I put a shelf right in the middle of the bag. I wanted it to be able to separate my purse essentials from my lunch at the bottom.
Right.
And then so this was my first little prototype that I bought from Target. And
let me tell you something.
That idea, that vision to life.
You need to obviously keep this, which I know you will. My first samples I did out of construction paper, taped, glued. I remembered reading the story when Kate Spade got started and how she wasn't a designer by trade, and that's exactly what she did. And I found every article about how she started her line and matched it up. I'm like, okay, she did it with construction paper. I'm going to do it with construction paper. And the wildest thing to find a sample maker, not knowing how to make a bag, that every single sample maker I met said, we were Kate Spade's first sample maker.
Wow.
Every single one. There were at least 6 of them in the Garment Center. And I'm like, okay. And I've discussed this with other people, but my students at FIT, when Kate Spade passed, what she went through, so many of my kids in my class didn't even know that she was a person. Yeah, how's that for wackadoo? So yeah, the legacy goes on. So one of the things I've always said to brands and designers, never start the line named after yourself, because to God's ears, if you're ever able to sell it, there goes your own IP. And therefore you're never actually able to start anything new, because who's going to follow another brand if you're not part of it? It's a pickle. May we all have that challenge. So you do this mock-up. What did you do next?
I knew that I needed to differentiate the bag because the handbag market is so saturated. And if I was coming in with a new bag, I wasn't really going to get too far. It was just going to be a real uphill battle. It's an uphill battle anyway, but I knew I needed to differentiate myself with that shelf. And so I started studying patents. And so this is where the engineer and geekiness of me come in.
Patents or patterns? Patents. So I am a handbag patent obsessed person. Obsessed. I have this giant dossier of the history of the handbag, actually. I made it because I felt like if I need to be an expert, I need to know, when this came out and what's the why and, all of that stuff. But determining and discovering who and what created and the why. And I don't know if you've noticed, but historically, I don't know, up until I don't even know how long ago, every single handbag patent was by a man.
You know what? I did not know that. But what I did is that I researched
designer utility patents. Did you look
utility? I have 2 utility patents.
Right.
And I researched, I wanted to find a patent attorney who had already gotten a patent for a handbag so that I would work with that person.
So you looked up the attorneys who filed handbags and went backwards.
I went backwards.
There
and I also researched were there, any bags that had this shelf, this movable shelf in the middle of it. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to file this patent. And what I did is I did a provisional patent at first, which gives me the 12 months to say patent pending and to figure out if I really had this idea.
If it's worth it.
Yeah, it definitely is. Provisional patents really don't cost much. Even now, I know when I did it, it was about under $300. I think it's still less than...
Did you do it yourself or you had that?
I did the provisional patent myself. Well, yeah, I studied it. I did the provisional. Then when it was time to file the regular patent, I hired a patent attorney. But yeah, I did the provisional. I'm actually working on another provisional patent too for a new idea that I had for a bag.
You reverse engineered it, didn't you?
Yes.
It's funny because so many people know, and again, as a non-lawyer and you being a non-lawyer, we cannot give out legal advice. So we can't recommend for people to do it by themselves. We can't tell people they should do it themselves. That said, I've done provisional patents myself. I've done trademarks myself. I've done so much myself to the point where the USPTO.gov, I think, has a line through my voice saying, oh no, she's calling again, being like, hey, so do you think this would fall under this class? And can I put more than one? And do you think if I doubled up, it would be a problem? And, this whole narrative, because they can't give legal advice, but they seem to be very, very helpful.
They are very helpful.
But let me tell you, they hear my voice and I hear oh damn, she's back. She is back. That's amazing. So you had your 12 months. Who made your first sample?
Well, let me see. I found someone who recommended and referred me to a guy in New Jersey who used to work for Coach. And he retired and he was making samples in his basement. And
I know who you're talking about.
He made samples in his basement. I got connected to him. His name is Mano in New Jersey. He used to work for Coach. Amazing. And he worked with me until we got it right. I had so many iterations. He said, listen, let's stop with the iterations. You just let's find this manufacturer and do it because it was costing me more and more. He said, let's just, go ahead and get
that is a newbie issue, especially with sample makers. And you're very lucky that you had someone who was able to cut you off. It's like drinking, like you've done enough. It's too many times because as a new designer, it is 1000% a pitfall where you're like, well, what if we change this? And what if we change that? And most manufacturers or sample makers will either pander to that and keep charging you or will put you on the bottom of their list and being like, yeah, we don't have time for this because clearly you don't know what you're doing. And that green, I call it the green cost, not green in the recycled version, but the green as in newness, that the prices get jacked up for you not knowing a damn thing. So you are very fortunate that you found this lovely gentleman being like, Sherrill, you are cut off.
Yes.
Off. Like,
He
that's
was
it.
like, stop. I'm not going to make it anymore. You know, you're always going to make changes. You're always going to make improvements down the road. So yeah, I was really, really fortunate. He was wonderful to help me along the way. And I can still talk to him today about it. And he's so amazed and impressed and excited for me. But yeah, it was wonderful.
So you get this first bag, you have your provisional patent. Then what did you do?
I hugged my bag like it was my baby. That's what I did. I was like, oh my God, my dream, my vision.
Do you have a picture of you hugging the bag?
I do. It was my sample bag with Mano because he did such a beautiful job. I mean, he did bags for Coach. And yeah, I do. I have a picture of me and Mano and me hugging.
With the bag.
Absolutely.
Oh my God. With the bag spawn.
Yeah.
So you have the sample. Now what do you do?
So I have.
Did you have pricing? Did you have idea of pricing yet?
Well, we're in between steps here. So with Mano, I had my sample, my prototype. I didn't have any idea with pricing. So what I did originally, I was adamant about making my bag in the USA, and I wanted to find a manufacturer in the USA, and I just couldn't afford it. I just could not afford it. And I started working with the Department of Commerce. Now, this was a few years back, and probably still do it. I'm not sure. But the Department of Commerce will help you find a manufacturer in the U.S. because they want businesses to stay in the U.S.
Yep.
But unfortunately, the way my bag was made, all of
too many things
going out, it was too much. So it was the decision whether I not make the bag or I go overseas. And so I decided to go overseas. And then that was a whole nother issue.
I'll bet.
A whole nother issue.
I'll bet. So what country did you start with, and are you still with them now?
I started in China. So I had been blogging about my experience about just starting this whole handbag business, all of the ups and downs, what I was going through. And I had quite a few people that was following my blog. And so I wrote the story about me, going overseas to find a manufacturer. And this guy emails me back. He says, "Hey, I'm in Hong Kong. I can help you." And I was like, "Hey, I don't know.
I'm here.
I don't know who you are. Like, who are you?" But apparently this guy had been following my story, and he was from Florida, and he lived in Hong Kong at the time, and he was starting this business to help U.S. companies find factories in China, Hong Kong, China.
Was he American or Chinese?
He's American.
Okay.
Yeah, American. I mean, the story goes on, but just amazing. I mean, that's just Godsend right there.
Yep.
And I got to tell you, even today, even though that was years ago, 2013, 2014, his name is Harry. Harry and I are still connected. He has since moved back to Florida. He works at a university, college in Florida, and I just did a speaking engagement with his students.
Oh my God.
Last month. And so this is years ago, and Harry and I are still friends. But back then I was like, I don't know who you are. Like, who are you? You just want my money.
Right.
But he indeed did help me find a manufacturer.
Are you still with that same factory?
No.
There's that. Yeah, no, it is really wild if you are to do a timeline with push pins of like, and then I found Harry, and then I was with the first factory, and then I went to shit with factory number 1, and then I had factory 2. And then I realized I needed factory 3 and 4 just in case factory 2 went upside down. So especially doing this all by yourself.
Yeah.
It's like, and funding it by yourself.
Yeah.
And it's to someone who's organized, strategic, and engineer. Everything needs to have a why and a place. And then you're basically throwing yourself off a cruise ship and saying, maybe I should go to an island. Maybe I should float. All the things that are so antithetical to being who you are. But you get on this almost like an obsession. Like, I got to do this. I got to figure that, like, oh my God, I'm so close. I'm so close. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I always say that, I say that it's, people always talk about passion, passion, passion.
This is
And
beyond passion.
I say I have passion, but it's sprinkled with a little obsession because
Yes.
it's no way, because you can fall in and out of love. It is that obsession,
Right.
you going and
Yep.
moving like this is going to work. I gotta make
Yep.
this work.
Yep.
So I always say passion sprinkled with a little obsession.
I call it passion sprinkled with crazy, but yeah, it's one of those because I don't know when I started mine and then I was getting my MBA and I was working at this magazine, which RIP didn't last very long, but learning the back end of like, okay, now I need a press kit, RIP press kits too. But, now I need a celebrity. Now I need a picture. Now I need testimonials. Now I need to give them. Now I need to get into a magazine. Now I need this. Now I need to get it on a TV show. And you're like, I only have one sample and I really don't know how I'm supposed to make it or have production, but I need to do all this now. So my first order was a store on Bleeker Street. And they may have been gone by the time you started, called Verve. And it was this lovely man. And he was one of the first people to buy Minkoff, Monica Bakir. Like he was the first store, Deluxe, which is now Nagady, which is Sarah. It's like, I believe, but he was one of these incredible men who said, okay, a handbag is not a Van Gogh. It's not supposed to go on a wall. You want people to come in and you want them to buy more. You can't outprice yourself. I mean, all these things and the stories like that he would tell me about, like even with Rebecca Minkoff, and I believe this to be true based on what he said. I believe she could probably confirm. But, like shipping your first bag and how he called her in and said, I'm not going to pay you for this. I want you to come in. I want you to see how to pack. I want you to see how to ship. Now you take this home and reship it to me and then I'll pay you. Like one of these things, because with boutiques, the one thing you learn, boutiques will pay you up front, right? Like you send that UPS, you get the check, COD. With department stores, which everybody thinks are so sexy and exciting, it's like you might as well kill yourself because I read that big fat book for Nordstrom over a break, to do it myself.
Yeah.
I got into Bergdorf's myself and I physically delivered my first box of bags to Bergdorf's, took the train there, got there, and they're like, you can't do this. You need to ship it to us. And I'm like, why should I ship it if I could take the train? Like, here's the DC right here. Take it. So it's part of these stories where you're in uncharted waters, but you're like on the psychotic mission. Like, okay, now what?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's this forever wheel that's turning and you're running and it's just ongoing all the time.
So had you started showing said bag to anybody for sale yet? Like, did you have orders against it? Because if you're going to speak to a factory, you need to say like, hey, people want to buy this. Or you're just saying like, I'm on the mission for like bag one.
I mean, I said people were going to buy it, but did I have an audience? Did I have a customer base? Things that I know that I should have had back now? Nothing. I didn't know anything. It's about this thing about being naive, about starting a business and going after all of this stuff. And someone asked me just last week, what did I wish I knew then that I know? Besides, I wish I knew how much this was going to cost me. I probably would have said nothing, because had I known everything that I know now, I would have clammed up and I probably wouldn't have pursued it. It really is about being naive, about going after what you believe.
Naive tenacity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's a lot of work, but I really I enjoy just the creativity, what I come up with, and just having this patent and being able to use that and leverage it and that sort of thing.
People don't know the value of that. That's what got me my first licensing deal, because when I did it, nobody had a patent. Mine were, I had a design patent and a utility patent, and that's like, I was able to knock myself off, which to me, most people don't know that you can do that.
Yeah, I'm working on that now. Emily, I'm working on that now. So you absolutely can.
Yep. So, okay, you find a factory, you get a sample, then what happens?
I started in the community with the diaper bags because I had been working with the moms. And so I started talking to moms and childcare providers. I was trying to then build a community before I got the bag. So then I did a Kickstarter campaign. I raised some money there, not nearly enough, but definitely it was helpful.
Did you get your goal?
I did get my goal. Yes. My goal was 15,000. I got about 19,000.
Did you put any of your own money into it to get the ball rolling?
Yeah, I did. I had some money saved up. Fortunately, I have a husband that believes in my dreams. And not everybody could, say that. But yeah,
people don't realize that with Kickstarters, that most people end up putting their own money in to look the part. So it's not like, nobody invests in something with no money. I don't care what it is. So you need that smoke buys mirrors element. So that's amazing. I'm so happy you made it, because there's nothing worse, because those things live forever.
Yeah, they absolutely do. And there's a system even behind that I learned later. But you do need some money up front, because there are things that you just need to buy to get things going up front. Yeah.
So you raised under 20K, just about 20K. Did you immediately go into production, or did you start trying to shop it around?
Actually, I had started production.
With no orders.
I can't believe it. With no orders.
I can't. The dream. Oh my God. It's like, if you want to tell a younger Mink over and smack you, being like, no.
Yeah, but then I started getting, with my campaign, I got orders from that, but not nearly as much as I put in for the order. I put in for 1,000 bags. I didn't know 1,000 people. That was way too much. I would never tell anybody to order. I mean, if you can get away with 100 or 200 initially, make sure you have somebody that's going to buy it. As a matter of fact, I tell people, build your community first. Start talking about it. Do your provisional patent if it's patentable.
Yeah.
Start talking about it.
Brands with fans. That's what you need.
That's the best way to grow your brand and to sell it even before you get it. Even before it gets off the boat. You want to start selling it, which I did. I did pre-orders.
The pre-order is the way to go.
Yeah.
It really is. So
I still do pre-orders today because I want to make sure that I have orders. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You don't want to get stuck. Also, another thing that people don't realize is the hook of the pre-order. It also helps you with this narrative of sustainable production, that you're not producing more than you need, which to you, it's more than you can sell, right? But truly, it's part of a whole narrative of what's important of today is like, no, I'm only producing as much as people want to buy. So I'm not left and I'm not messing with the environment. But it's also a good angle to keep in mind, like, hey, I'm making sure that I'm not adding to that overarching problem that exists, that we're all, pretty much part of at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you hit the nail on the head there, because that's the way that I'm working now. I get samples and I sell by the samples. I'm building, and jumping ahead a little bit, but I'm building out a corporate gifting program. So not just in retail, but,
That's an unknown business that people don't know. It's a gem.
Yeah. So we're building that out now.
And what's a corporate gifting program, just to explain?
Yeah. So corporate gifting is that, you have these companies that if you work for a company 5 years or 10 years, or even if there's a corporate event and they want to gift for my bags, it might be the executives there, or if there's an event and they want to gift the speakers, or I'm also looking into uniform bags, which means since I can design the bag, so uniform bags is another way of corporate gifting, because for example, and I'm just going to put it out there because this is also a dream. So for Delta Airlines, they have uniforms and they carry bags. So I would love to do corporate gifting for a company like that. So yeah, that's what we're working on.
Yep. But can I challenge you with that? Now, MinkeeBlue is your brand. How can you convince a Delta Airlines or a corporation that if you have clients at an executive level, that your bag is at that level branding wise, that they would then be excited? And I'm not saying your brand isn't, but how do you go up against that? Because I know historically, like the buyers at Bloomingdale's have told me that the first bag, historically, again, I'm sure things have evolved. The first bag she would buy with her first job would be a Minkoff bag. As soon as she gets a bump in salary, the next bag she buys is a Chanel flat bag because it's status. I've made it. It's timeless. It's my first real bag. How do you work up against that as a MinkeeBlue brand versus somebody else in terms of perception and branding?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the way that I brand and promote the bag is about travel and work. And so I'm not competing with the Chanel's or Louis Vuitton. It's about the functionality and utility of the bag. So if you're traveling and you need to put an extra pair of shoes or, the change of clothes, if it's an overnight bag, then you're going to want a backpack or a tote bag or something like that you can pack your toiletries in and things like that. And so it's the way that you brand the product, the way that you promote it. And that's what I do. So
that's your angle. That's your USP. That's your unique selling point.
Absolutely.
So this is not a bag that I'm using for fabulousness. It's the functional bag that you will look good because I've already thought of everything that your people need.
Right, exactly. And they are carrying the things that the bag can be used for. They are carrying their shoes. They are carrying their snacks and things like that. Yeah, and their toiletries. So
if they're smart, they're bringing snacks because you can't buy anything at the airport.
I know.
I was selling to airports years ago, and I had someone on the phone who was, I can't remember which airport, but it was very Seinfeldian. I was like, listen, I want to know how and who determines the markup on a bottle of water because it's like 8,000%.
I know.
It's offensive, like $7 for a bottle of water that at, Costco costs 17 cents, but, too bad. So, okay, you have the sample. How are you able to get to retail? What's your thought process of direct to consumer versus retail? I know you were in the Philly Macy's incubator. So what was that evolution and where are you at now with all of that in terms of where it should be sold and what works best for you as a sole brand owner?
There was really no plan. It's like trying to figure things out every step of the way.
Right.
And so initially being a part of the Philadelphia Fashion Incubator was about getting into boutiques and doing these retail.
Did Macy's pick it up immediately?
No, not when I was there. No, there was so much to learn about running a business that I just wasn't ready back then anyway. And there was just so much to get into retail. It's very, very difficult. But for me, the best way was direct to consumer. And so building out my Shopify store and then doing my best to promote it in digital ads and things like that and these events and building the brand. Social media has been a big part of introducing MinkeeBlue because it is a different type of bag. And so it is.
And what are your price points?
They've ranged from, I have a little small crossbody for $39.99 to my backpacks for $230. So it was something for everybody on the website.
So were you, just out of curiosity, when you had your first shipment come, your husband must love you, but does he love you enough to have 1,000 bag in your garage? Like, where'd they go?
It wouldn't fit. He was like, you're going to have to do something else. I mean, I had a little room where I put some bags in there, but I had to get a warehouse. I had to get storage. My house would hold 1,000 bags. And my bags are so big. They're not small, clutches, things like that. This takes up a lot of room. And the shipping, that was another thing. I had no idea about shipping and how I had to pack this so the divider wasn't damaged.
And that's
what happened my first time. Yep. The way I had made the divider, and then I can show you that, but it was crunched up. Oh my God. So there was just really, I don't even think about it.
So well. Oh my God. My first shipment, I went to JFK. My mom drove me to JFK and I picked it up myself. Literally, my mom was waiting outside. I carried the box myself, like a cartoon. We opened it in the back of my mom's trunk. The samples were terrible. They smelled. And it wasn't even so much the look of me dealing with it, but was the look of my mom. Her facial expression made me feel like, what the hell did I just do? It's like, it's all good that you can like hide it yourself and keep it to yourself and swallow all of this. But as soon as you show someone else that's close, you're like, now I'm accountable. Now what am I going to do? So did you pack, ship yourself every single order for that first 1,000? I know I did.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I had PTSD.
I had interns that was very helpful, though. I've always hired interns, but yeah, pretty much responsible for packing. Now, it took me a long time to sell that 1,000.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
I'll bet. Are they gone?
Yeah, they're now I have more thousands. I have other thousands.
Oh my God. So at this point, you are no longer packing and shipping your bags yourself?
No, I have a warehouse and a team down there that ships the bag. I'll occasionally, depending on, if it's slow, a week or something, I'll go and check out things and occasionally we'll ship stuff. But I do have a team that ships stuff out.
In New Jersey? In Philadelphia?
Philly. Yeah, Philly.
So when your stuff comes in, is it Port Philadelphia?
New York, and then it's trucked over to Philadelphia.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and I've been through I had a warehouse in Michigan, Maryland, and trying to save $1, but it turned out to be really, really expensive.
Yep. It's so interesting, like learning terms like FOB, LDP, freight on board, landed duty. And I got to the point where I just said, I just need landed prices. Like, please don't put it on me to get it from China, from India, from the Philippines. Like, I think I went through 5 or 6 countries and I'm like, please just get it into this country. I don't want to have to deal with an expediter. I don't have to deal with customs. Just give me a final price. And I know I probably lost money on that. And they gave me an extra, they marked it up extra on their end. But the time value of money, of the stress and the anxiety of having it leave the country, having it go through customs, I'm Garmento offspring. So my very first shipment, my dad had a guy. This is like 1,000 years ago. And I was calling him all the time. Like we were friends. Like, okay, so is it coming? Did it come? Did you see? Yeah. And then my dad was like, he doesn't want to work with you anymore. And I was like, why? He's got other people. And what did I bring in? 300 bags. And I'm like, can you open the box? Can you tell me what it looks like? He's like, he's not your friend.
Yeah.
But I'm paying him. He's like, doesn't matter. And that first shipment to come in was $7,000. I remember that. And I was, doing this during my day job and during lunch. And then my mom drove me to pick it up. And then she's like, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, I'm doing this. I don't know, but I'm doing this. She's like, that's not good. That's not good.
My first shipment, there was a snowstorm. Things got delayed. And I was paying for all of that when it's delayed. And it kept adding up because they wasn't moving anything. It was just
sitting there.
Yeah.
Oh, I had a factory once. And again, this is live and learn. When you're new, you tend to stalk and harass people who you're working with. And to them, it's not they're working for you, it's the other way around. And I didn't know it was a Muslim factory. No one told me it was a Muslim factory. But I had my very first shipment to Nordstrom, finally reel the whole thing. I'd gone through the whole book and I kept contacting them like, hey, confirming when it's going to go out. Hey, Nordstrom just asked. I was contacting them during Ramadan. And they were so insulted that they booked mine to the last. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. It's like the lost girl, like, hey, can I fix this? Can I do anything? Can I send you something? Does Amazon go overnight? This is a learning curve.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I mean, I would panic all the time when the factory wouldn't respond to me.
And which is what was happening.
And they were on their holiday for 7 days. Let me know so I won't be like, oh my God, they got the money and they're not responding.
Yep. I finally got the owner of the factory and he was like, we can't work with you anymore. And I started crying on the phone with him, literally crying. Yeah. And he's like, okay, we'll give you one more chance, but don't do it again. I'm like, I'm so sorry. The amount that phone call cost me was almost equivalent to my production. Because you're like, what am I going to do? They have my bags. They have my brand. They have my life.
Yeah.
So, oh my gosh. Yeah. So let's go to where you are now.
Yeah.
Let's see what's the light at the end of the tunnel, where you are, like what's going on with MinkeeBlue. And oh my God, I also want to know how you came up with the name.
Yeah, so coming up with the name really goes back to me working with the moms because I originally started making diaper bags.
Right.
And I wanted the name MinkeeBlue, made sense, but the domain was taken. And I liked the sound of MinkeeBlue, so I literally went to...
Why pink? Oh, because the diaper bag, pink and blue.
Yeah, pink and blue just made sense. And I liked the sound of MinkeeBlue. So I was like, oh man, I can't get that name. So I literally went through the alphabets and I said, MinkeeBlue.
Dinky Blue.
Chinky Blue.
No.
Whole nother business. And I landed on MinkeeBlue.
Wow.
That was basically it. Sold in Macy's. I had an opportunity to sell with QVC, working to get back there. And then it's really about this corporate gifting and the diffusion line. You were talking about knocking yourself off. So that's what I'm working on this year is the diffusion line and the corporate gifting.
How are you able to knock yourself off if you've got bags that are already selling at $30?
No, those are the crossbody. These are the little teeny crossbodies that I have. They do not have the divider in there. The tote bags and the backpacks are $225 to $230. And little small crossbody bags are literally.
So your goal is to get that $249 bag sold under $100 per se.
It would not be the exact same bag.
It'd be a cousin.
Yeah, it'd be a cousin, different materials, same functionality, but to be able to go in some other retailers at a lower price and to build out the corporate gifting program. In addition to, I have licensees that first they were infringing on my patent on Amazon, and I turned it around. I was going to kick them off and said, I only want to be the one selling my bags on Amazon, but these are factories that are selling at a lower price, different materials, different looks. So
you have a full-on licensing agreement with them to sell your bags without
sell their bags using my patents.
So exactly.
My patent. Yeah.
That's how I got my licensing deals, and people don't know about that.
Yeah. So that's and to build that out too. So there's a lot of different opportunities and not really limiting myself in just retail. Yeah, there's a lot of different opportunities.
Just out of curiosity, are you thinking to move to other categories, or you're staying firm in handbags?
I have thought about it, but I need to make sure I got this down. Yeah. So I want to talk to you after we finish this because you have a lot that you've done that I would love to get some advice on. So I would, love to talk to you about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Right now I'm working with a handful of designers that I believe in and then helping them move to other categories. It's one of those things that I always say, everybody loves an underdog, but everybody loves a handbag more. But right now, novelty has a moment. So there's a way for us to do something cool and clever and out of the box that most people don't even realize. And I applaud you not venturing beyond what you're doing because, I think I created a solution bag that was very specific and had a very unique design, like not a regular tote. It was a wallet wristlet fusion. It was a club bag. It was of the time, whatever. Can't even fit a real phone in it now. But the flip phone, I had to deal with Nokia to have that sold in my bags. It was a whole thing. You're like, had I known how crazy it is to call the CEO and be like, hey, let's chat. And they're like, who are you? Well, I've got this bag. You need to see what we can do. So yeah, it's definitely one of those things. But I ventured into traditional bags and it ate up all my money. And then I did a trade show and then it ate up more of my money that I didn't have. And that was the thing, like to do a trade show, premiering product that, when you don't have a USP, a unique selling point, when everybody else is already doing it and you're doing it because you think you're supposed to. Yeah.
Now I'm gonna, I just need to make the things work that I got going on now.
Yes. Yeah. I agree. Oh, Sherrill, it has been an absolute joy. Tell everybody where they can follow you and find you and purchase your amazing bags.
Yeah, so I am at MinkeeBlue on Instagram and TikTok, and it is MinkeeBlue.com. Check out the bags.
And MinkeeBlue, how do you spell that?
MINKEE Blue.com.
Woohoo! Sherrill, you've been an absolute joy. Thank you for joining us on the Handbag Designer 101 podcast. We can't wait to see what you're doing next. All right, love. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to rate and review and follow us on every single platform at Handbag Designer. Thanks so much. See you next time.